Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of iZombie. A very good, and on many different levels, a very surprising episode of iZombie. So a lot of stuff went down in this episode. Obviously, there's the whole conversation about Rachel and the whole reporter thing. And side note, like last week I brought it up. I was like, oh, I thought, because at first I was like, oh, Robbie didn't know, but then I was like, oh, no, Robbie knew. Like, obviously I brought it up during the recording. I was like, oh yeah, obviously Robbie knew, so why didn't he think about it? I was like, no, he didn't. I was like, I could have sworn she brought it up that she was a reporter. Maybe I'm thinking she told Harley or someone else in the group, but Robbie never heard that part of the conversation. So maybe that was what that was all about. But nevertheless, like the fact that she put it out there. And once again, I think I brought it up last episode, how like it's Liv's face in the forefront. So that's why the entire episode Liv is dressed as herself and everything, which I thought was pretty neat. Even threw Clive off for a second. He's like, oh, so this is what you look like. I part of me was thinking, like, for a second, he probably thought for a second, oh, you got cured, or as, oh, no, you're doing this for that particular reason. Which I think I brought it up earlier this season. It always throws me off when I see Rose McIver, like, basically not wearing her zombie makeup, because I'm so not used to seeing her like that. Anytime I see her in something outside of iZombie, like, it takes me a second for it to register in my brain, oh, that's Rose McIver, because I'm so used to seeing her with her makeup on. Like, I gotta get that straight in my head. It still doesn't, like, work out in my head for some reason. I don't know why. It's not like she looks that much different from herself, but then again, I guess, like, the paler skin and the white hair short white hair kind of throws me up. Either way. So nonetheless, kind of handling the case in that department, but also the thing about the case being the fact is that the victim this episode is Caddy. iZombie just pulled a supernatural. They brought a character back. It's like, oh, we showed this character off here. They were going for a while. We brought them back just to literally kill them off, like, maybe 3 minutes later or something like that? That sucked. I mean, and I'm sorry, I'm bouncing all over the place. I also appreciate the conversation between Peyton and Liv, where Peyton's like, oh, when people see you, they're not going to see this on, like, what's on the newspaper. What they're going to see is this beautiful lady, not this monster. And Liv's like, you know that's still me, right? It's like, oh, cute monster. I was like, well, don't call me a monster. It's just like, it's so sad. It's like, oh, come on, your bestie accepts you for all your zombie things. But obviously she ends up eating Caddy's brain and ends up having one of the best side effects. It's because Robbie slept with her, and he immediately told her from the beginning, he's like, yeah, don't be afraid, you might have to worry about, being attracted to me, and Liv's just like, oh, whatever, Robbie. But the moment she's in the, like, interrogation room, like, following up on her work and Caddy's work and everything, and, she sees it twice that, like, Caddy's having sex with Robbie, and it's just like, ew. And then Robbie's like, oh, you saw it? He's like, hey, you can't even look at me now? Like, the fact of the matter is just because we brain banged. I'm like, yeah, don't use the term like brain bang. That sounds so weird, but it's like, I feel so bad for Liv. That's gotta be so uncomfortable, because it's like, this is like your friend, and it's just like, ew, I don't want to see you having sex. I don't want to look at you. I don't want to trigger any more visions related to you. I won't look at you. Even at one point, he's like, oh, can I get my notes off the table? She's like, no, stay back there with Clive, who's like curled up because he thinks this whole thing might be related to some kind of like biovirus or something like that, because that's what Caddy was investigating. He's like freaking out about it. He's covering up his mouth. He's staying away from all the people that are interrogating. Even appreciate that very extremely racist lady that was kind of like, yeah, he's wearing one of those what's it who's it. And it's just like, you mean a turban and looks like me in the sense of him being brown. It's just like, yes, unapologetically, she was like, oh, yes, of course. Thank you for understanding. It's like, oh, God, lady. And then she's like, yeah, but I can tell you one thing for sure. He had the look in his eyes like he didn't care for any, human life at all. And then hard cut to him taking care of his baby. It's like, you racist son of a gun. But nonetheless, obviously, like, the investigation takes a very interesting turn, considering the fact is that the person that was on the plane, like, cause all this is tailored back to, like, it's like, oh, where is this virus that Caddy was trying to, like, she's like, oh, it came from Paris. So, but, now it's like, which then again, Robbie kind of brought this up earlier. He's like, well, the fact of the matter is there's certain key things in the conversation he had with the other CDC lady. I think her name was Meg. It's like certain things like that kind of make it seem like the CDC is not telling all of the details. But nonetheless, basically the whole virus thing turned out to be possibly related to zombies because one of the guy had switched seats with a girl, and it was the number 7D, and they found it obviously on the napkin and everything. Turns out that was Patricia's, which is like, then we find out that she's actually Carly from Fillmore Graves. That's her daughter. Patricia is her daughter, which then kind of turns this whole situation on like, oh man, this gets severely complicated. So it's like, immediately my brain was like, okay, so this is some cover up thing. It's like, so like, did Patricia kill Caddy? Did Carly not know about it, or like what? Because obviously, like throughout the episode, Liv is dealing with the whole brain situation, and she's kind of getting attracted to different men, not knowing why, but she keeps going up to a bar and almost like sleeping with dudes, and she's like, I don't get what's going on. And then she hears about the fact is that Caddy would come there every night and live with a different dude every time, and she's like, oh my god, it makes so much sense. I guess she was too prideful to admit it to Clive, like what was going on. She didn't even admit it to Justin. I guess like, because in her mind it was just kind of like a situation, like, because she's asking Justin about the whole exclusivity conversation, like, oh, what are we, boyfriend and girlfriend, or what? I think she probably thought that was just probably her brain like overreacting. She's trying to push him away, as she said in the conversation, like keeping him at arm's length because of everything that's going down between her and her previous boyfriends, Lowell and Drake, and just having to deal with that and everything, and not wanting kind of a repeat of that. So I guess she thought it was just herself, not realizing it was the brain. But once again, it's like, why didn't you tell anybody? Once again, I guess it's just that part of her, like, Caddy's brain making her not want to admit what that was all about. So, but what makes things even more complicated is the fact is that first of all, I want to point out the fact is one of the guys she met with, I could be remembering it wrong because it's been a while since I've seen it, but that one of the dudes she met was the actor who played Fargo from Eureka. I feel like I'm getting the wrong last name. I know his first name was Douglas, but like, I want to say it was Fargo, but that's just like, I lost my damn mind. Fargo from Eureka, that's so cool. Nevertheless, moving past that, she ends up running into a chase, and I'm like, she's like trying so hard to fight this brain. I'm like, please fight the brain, Liv, because it's like, it's going to be super awkward sleeping with Chase, which she does. It's like, considering the fact this had the whole conversation with Justin about, being exclusive and everything, you turn around and have sex with Chase, which things get complicated even more so when she ends up reading a napkin that says Caddy's name, and which means she went off with Chase, which is like, okay. So what I'm thinking is, breaking it down in my brain, Patricia was on the plane, obviously Caddy started getting suspicious, started looking into it. Chase found out more about her, found out that this bar was her like hot spot, so he went there, chatted her up, and then killed her. Which is like, at the same time, I'm like, but what? Maybe he didn't do that. Maybe because it's like, you're Fillmore Graves, you're like private military contractor type of thing, and it's like, I feel like they have the potential to like cover up some stuff good, and to do something like that, like, I still believe heavily that they're behind the whole like Weckler situation. I'm like, that's a huge cover up. It's like, why would you go through so much effort for that but not this? Like, you wouldn't think people would notice. That Liv works in the like medical office, ME office, and you didn't correlate that. Do they not know that Liv, I mean, they have to know that Liv eats the brains of victims and stuff like that. So it's like, so not unless it's a situation where Chase was going to handle it, but Patricia did it in her own, so maybe like even her mom doesn't know about it. For Patricia, it was all about like, oh, the lady was getting too close, asking me all these questions. Maybe she saw me zombie out, and I panicked and killed her, type of thing. I don't know. It's just like, whatever the case may be, like, Fillmore Graves is now like, even more so. Like, I mean, like, I already knew that was the case because of the brain tubes that Weckler's daughter and Patricia were eating. So it's like, from the very beginning, I was like, yeah, of course they're like connected to Fillmore Graves, but even more so. And now Clive knows that they're connected. And it's like, because I don't think they know about like that whole situation. Maybe she doesn't talk about, like, Carly doesn't talk about work or whatever. So maybe that's why those two didn't know about it, which then begs the question of like, why is she over there at their place? That's why I'm kind of like, I don't think this whole Baracus situation went down the way they're making it sound like, oh, like his daughter was used as a pawn or something. It's like, no, she's hanging out with people with Fillmore Graves, which Baracus is connected to Fillmore Graves. So it's like, I don't know. Like, I mean, maybe we'll find out next episode. Obviously, I'll get to that soon enough. But it's like, I don't know what to make heads or tails of it. But it does seem like, obviously, they are behind this. And also, we still have no idea who is behind, like, Wally's family getting killed and everything. Like, I still have my mind set on Fillmore Graves and everything behind it, because it's like we're out of suspect because Harley and his bros obviously found out last episode they didn't do it. I already had a feeling about that, but now it's like it seems like everything's kind of unraveling a little bit. Like you see the seams of the cover up and everything. At least to me, it seems like that. So I'm trying to figure out like what this all means. Hopefully, we kind of find out in the next episode. But I mean, things kind of got complicated all around in this episode because also. Well, obviously, I brought it up earlier, the whole Rachel and Robbie situation. She wants to talk to him more about. She's like, oh yeah, there's zombies out there and everything. Robbie obviously not, disclosing the fact immediately to Liv that he was the one that leaked the information to Rachel. But nonetheless, she's like, oh yeah, like, come on, tell me more. It's like, obviously, like, your feelings in this whole situation of being hurt take less precedence over the fact that there are zombies around and everything. And it's like, I mean, for one, like, you reporting that, like, the fact of the matter is, Fillmore Graves hasn't acted in it. That makes me wonder why not. I guess because it's like a tabloid thing. It's not like an actual legit newspaper, and most people are taking it as a joke. Just like the video of Justin going zombie mode. So I guess that's why they're just kind of scooping it under the rug. But I doubt we've seen the last of her. I'm sure she's going to pop up asking more questions. But obviously in this episode, like the reason why Major got outed by Chase, and the reason why he was able to figure it out is because Shauna and her post and everything, and so now he got kicked out of Fillmore Graves, which obviously Major's like, no, let me do anything, I'll be a custodian, whatever you need me to do, I'll work at the bottom and just, this is my new family, like, please don't kick me out, because once again, he has nowhere to go because everyone hates him, and it's something he kind of, like, because he meets up with Natalie again, pure, fully human now. She ends up bringing up the fact is that Shanna did all this, and it led to things kind of like, because of her posting stuff out there like that, she ended up kind of ruining everything for him, everything good he had go for. Once again, is that her who's putting out all those t-shirts, or is that something like someone else did that? I don't know. Like those killer abs t-shirts. Side note, things did not go the way I thought they were. I thought what was going to happen is we're going to see Shauna pop up, and then he's going to try and meet with Natalie, and it turns into like a jealous, obsessive type of situation. Like, oh, like Major's mind, blah, 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 tried to kill Natalie or something like that, especially now that she's human. Did not take that route. It did take the route of like, oh, they went to the party because everyone's celebrating. Oh yeah, Major, it's your, your send-off, which I was actually surprised that the guys in his unit were a lot more accepting of it than obviously Chase was. Because Chase's mentality of it is like, oh, everyone thinks you're a zombie, and if you're not a zombie, you put everyone in danger, because it's like, for one, they have to be concerned about helping you if they find out, oh, you're human and everything, like you're a liability in the field, that like a single bullet wound anywhere other than the head will slow you down or even kill you. And also, they can't rely on you to actually take a bullet for them so they can do their job, because you'd be too scared to, because it might, legitimately kill you. So, but everyone on the unit's like, nah, man, we gotta give props to you, man, because you still went out there in the field like a badass, even though you're human. Yo, mad props to you. And it gave him a send-off and everything. But that turns crappy when Harley shows up and blows the place up, which I was not expecting it to be Billy and Yellow Jacket. If you're not aware, I call him Yellow Jacket because he was on the TV show Beyond, and that's his character's like thing. He's known as Yellow Jacket. He has like a fake alias, but I will always refer to him as Yellow Jacket. It's a lot easier that way because I'm not very good with names. So they ended up letting Harley out of the freezer, which the group had put him in. Like, they drugged him and put him in the freezer until they could figure out, okay, like, what the hell we're going to do with him, locking him up and everything. It's like, oh yeah, we're never going to tell Fillmore Graves about it, which now might come back to bite them in the ass, because it's like, whoa, you knew about this and now you've put us all in danger. Because I thought it was going to be a situation like, oh man, the moment Harley, because obviously he ended up killing Billy and Yellow Jacket, which I was like, oh, those idiots, which kind of popped in my head. That's why I was thinking like, oh, someone must have followed Liv, or at least like Major and them to that place, and then like did that to kind of cause some havoc. It's like, no, two bumbling idiots. They were looking for Harley and his brothers, couldn't find him, and it was just like, oh man, Harley, like, what made you decide to check the freezer? I guess like they said, oh, padlock on. I was like, oh, that's suspicious. So that's why, like, the fact is that it went down like that made me think it couldn't have been them. It had to be something else. But nevertheless, spread like the zombie virus around more, because he's going to end up infecting them. And it's like, no, he's not going to infect them. Idiot, he's going to eat their brains, so they're dead. So, and like, in his true sense of being who he is, Harley is like, no, I'm going to take you all with me, and ends up blowing up in the house party, which is mostly filled with zombies, so some of them might be okay. But like right next to him was a human Natalie, because Major brought her to the party because she was all about like, hey, they got together and everything, and she's like, hey, let's leave town, like come with me, like you don't have anything left here for you. It's like he's got his friends and everything, sure, but it's like he'll never have a regular life again because he'll always be labeled as the chaos killer, and people always look at him, even more so because Shauna kind of shined a light on him again. It's like he was kind of slipping out of the spotlight. Obviously some people hated him already, still hated him obviously, but then she put even more so when the whole merchandising situation started amping up because of her just putting him out on social media and everything. But nevertheless, like I was bringing up earlier, this is probably going to come back and blow up in Clive as well as Liv's face, because the fact is they hid that Harley got turned into a zombie. It's like, you should have told us, we could have tracked him down, we could have prevented this whole situation. Maybe in Liv and Clive might even feel responsibility for this themselves. It's like, it's just a crappy turn of events and stuff like that, which at this point in time is like, it might have been the right move, because I mean, like I said, I don't trust Fillmore Graves, like no matter what. Just like, there's too much going on there. There's too many connections to everything that's going down, especially Baraka's situation. Also, the fact is he offered Peyton a job this episode. It's like, oh yeah, you could be my chief of staff, kind of almost like my right-hand lady in this whole situation. It's like, you're in the loop, you know about zombies and everything, and you can help with everything. She kind of brings up the Weckler thing, but in her words, it's like he didn't flinch or anything. So it's like, I don't know whether he's telling the truth, whether he really isn't involved in all this, especially because he brought up the fact that, oh, you'll see me on the tapes and everything, which is like, which obviously he has to say that. I mean recording, not the tapes, but like, he has to say that anyway because he knows that she's tight with Liv, and Liv knows the truth because of the whole investigation. But then again, it's like she's part of the, she's part of that, like, the Justice Department herself, being a, what is, she's a prosecutor, right? I was about to say, is she an ADA? I don't think she is. I think he's the ADA, or is he just the DA? Nevertheless, she's a prosecutor, so it's like, obviously she probably would know about, I guess, like she would know from just that aspect of her job, or maybe it is because of her connection to Liv that she would know too, but, so obviously he would say that because it's like, oh, it just screwed him over even more if he lied about it at this point, so, I don't know, I'm a little shaky on that too, still feel like he is connected, whether it's outright directly or not, I don't know. We also didn't get a look at Blaine's whole situation with, Mr. Balls, like trying to figure out that whole thing, where they stand in this, it's like, oh, the new business partners and everything. And what does that mean going forward for them? Because they're trying to, because he's also trying to set up this whole Fillmore Graves situation, but it's like, if things kind of implode with Fillmore and Graves, like, what does that mean going forward, for Blaine? I'm sure he'll kind of stay. Well, he has Mr. Balls, so he has Mr. Balls' like, international connections. It's kind of the whole reason why he's trying to business up with Mr. Balls. But, it is a very, very interesting turn of events. I'm very interested to see where, like, all of this goes down, because next week's episode is the season finale. Caught me off guard. I had no idea this season was going to be that freaking short until I started seeing something in the corner of, like, obviously, the CW's like, oh yeah, 2 more episodes of iZombie left. I'm like, wait, what? It's like, I didn't know this season was that short until I saw last week. That kind of blew my mind. Because it kind of messes with me, because, like, obviously season 1 was like 13 episodes. Season 2 is like, what? 20-ish, maybe 19 or 20-ish. So I guess I was kind of expecting it just to be as long, but no, if not at least a little bit longer than season 1, but it's like, no. So I mean, it seems like everything is coming to a head. Like, I'm very curious to see, like, how this all plays out, like what goes down in the season finale. It's going to be a crazy one indeed, because it's like, oh, this is literally on the verge of D-Day, Discovery Day, and it's like, with this new turn of events and everything. I mean, especially for Major, considering the fact this is like, just got Natalie back. She was human and everything, enjoying her life, and now she's dead. That might even make him blame himself. It's like, dude, I did that. Like, it's because of me that she's dead in the first place. Justin and Liv, things are going to be super awkward, because it's like, oh, Chase is there, and she has to be bashful about the fact that it's like, oh, I slept with him, even though me and Justin are supposed to be exclusive and everything. Which even then, it's like, yes, it was partly the brain, but even then, like, I think he's been very understanding so far because of the whole brain situation when it comes to, obviously, like, the whole Drake situation. But now it's like, will she tell him? I get the feeling Liv would. She wouldn't want to, but just being who Liv is, I think she would tell him. Like, try to explain that it is a brain situation, but still, it's like, how far will you let that go, before that turns into a situation of, like, that's why you should be like me and be on the tubes and everything, so you don't have to worry about stuff like that. So, And also, side note, like, this also dismisses my theory that Caddy actually took the cures. It's like, nope. Because basically, this entire time she's been looking into this whole virus situation. It's obviously connected to zombies and everything. So, and it's like, I mean, who knows how much of her findings she actually sent to the CDC? Like, the mega lady didn't really talk too deeply about it. Like, obviously, like I said at the beginning, like, they thought, like, Ravi's throwing it out there, like, oh, this might be a bio weapon type of situation is what they're fearing or whatever. But it's like, no, maybe there's a little more to what I mean, I don't know. Like, it seems like I said, from all fronts, like, zombies are slowly leaking out about, like, over the news, after what, Rachel wrote in the tabloids and stuff like that. Plus something like this going down. I mean, also, like, who's to say, like, he didn't, like, maybe you'll find out that Billy or Yellow Jacket is still alive, that they're not dead. Maybe they're not even just dead. Maybe he didn't actually outright kill them. Maybe he hurt them and scratched them, but now they're coming back as zombies. I assumed he ate them, but like I said at the beginning, I also thought, like, oh, maybe he turned them into zombies and now it spreads like wildfire. Don't know. We definitely get, I get the feeling we'll probably most likely get answers to in the season finale next week. So, but really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.